Hi, I'm Josh.
Hello, I'm Casey. Welcome to our C1 conversation and listening course. Today we're talking about a very interesting topic. Could you enlighten me, Josh?
Something very current. We are talking about fake news.
Okay, fake news.
So I think the logical step would be to say what that is. So
What
Casey,
is it? What is it, Josh?
I'll do it.
Okay.
So fake news is misleading information. In 2 words, it's misleading information. You know, and I think it's also important to recognize that just because it has the word news doesn't mean that it comes in formats of news all the time. You know, it could simply be a message that someone shares which isn't a news article or something, but you know, like a picture with some writing on it, or even the famous red bus from Brexit. You know, the misinformation of telling people promises and ideas which probably aren't true and cannot be backed up by real facts and figures.
I mean, we can quickly talk about that. The famous red bus incident in the UK was talking about a bus that was taken all over the UK, which had a message saying if we left the EU, we could spend £350 million on the NHS.
It said, why not give this money to the NHS instead? You know, so it implied that was possible. That was the plan, or money in the bank that we can just transfer to the NHS instead. When actually things are a lot more complicated, and you don't simply give money to the EU. You know.
Yeah, and so in the end, it was widely seen as a message that wasn't informative and that misleaded people into voting for leaving.
That's it. Where do we most often find fake news?
Well, I don't know about you, Josh. Don't know where you've been living for the past few years. Don't know why he's asking me this question. We most often find fake news, Josh, in social media.
What's that? No, you don't need to explain what social media is.
So, for example, on Facebook and Twitter, right now they're really famous for being a conduit which spreads fake news. And I think it's because of the nature of these platforms. They are not news platforms. They are sharing platforms. They're sharing experiences, sharing ideas. And so people are able to share an image with some really important information about an election or about the actions of someone, but there's no reference to reality, and this misleads people.
Yeah. It's very easy to access the information and accept it without actually doing any further research or looking into whether these facts have any legs to stand on.
Nice. Do these facts have any legs to stand on?
Yeah.
I also think you can find fake news on other platforms. Like you could create a website with fake news on it.
Of course.
There are many other ways, but really we're talking about social media because that's been the big issue here.
Yeah, I mean, 98% of the internet is like 4 different websites or something. You know, 98% of traffic is just like Facebook, Reddit, YouTube, and Google, and Twitter and Instagram. You know, that like those 6 platforms holds everything. So it would be pointless creating a new website to do so.
Josh, what's the purpose of fake news? Why does it exist? What is it used for?
To gain popularity and to make people think certain things. You know, I mean, I think it's used a lot during elections to influence people's opinions and to manipulate the public. You know, we know that lots of lies were spread during the Brexit campaign, you know, and in a lot of the populist movements that are happening around Europe.
Yeah, it happened in, for example, in the United States. There was a big spread of fake news, and I think it's widely accepted that they were done by Russian farms. Like Russian hacker farms, where they created a Facebook page which was like against Muslims and then just spread misinformation. And I think the reason to do that was to divide people and to make them think a certain way.
Definitely. And I think when you see an opinion which you kind of agree with, it justifies your own opinion. You know, you feel more comfortable having that opinion, and therefore, you know, you think that other people agree with you, and you're justified at that point.
So you get more entrenched in your own view, I think, because you think that other people think like you, when really they're Russians in Russia, just typing rubbish.
Yeah. Do you think there's any ways that we can avoid fake news?
Avoid it. We can protect ourselves from it, I think.
How?
So one way could be to, well, at least educate the public. I think a big problem is that people aren't really aware that when they share that picture with that statistic on it, that really they're just spreading misinformation.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, it could be a matter of educating people. On another, a lot of pressure is being put on Facebook because we could actually attack this at its source, or at least the person who mediates it. Facebook could do more to protect its users from spreading information which is patently false.
Is it their responsibility?
It's a good question. I think so. Only because Facebook is such a big company and has the ability, has so many more abilities than the government in that sense, that yes, it does have the responsibility to protect its users from misinformation.
Except, yeah, it's tough though, because I feel like we also have a social responsibility to be skeptical, to not believe everything we see and hear. But I mean, we are humans, and we know from throughout history forever, we have always been and had herd mentality. We like to group up, we like to have the same opinions, we like to believe things easily, and it makes us comfortable.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I think maybe defending ourselves, we have to look at laws in the government, we have to look at how Facebook is treating fake news, and also attack the sites that are creating it. So I think those could be some big steps.
Yeah. But I do think my personal opinion is the first thing is simply being skeptical, doubting what you read. Yeah. Don't believe it immediately, and that will change everything.
And if you do believe it, don't just share it.
Yeah.
Look it up first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you become a spreader of misinformation.
I know. I actually have to admit that I have knowingly fallen for fake news once. When it was a picture to do with salaries and tax brackets or whatever, and I shared it to someone, and I was using it as proof for my argument, because I'd seen it on Facebook, and I thought it was fantastic, and it really said what I was trying to say. And although my message wasn't wrong necessarily, the facts and the figures were completely fake news. And Casey said to me, Where is that from?
Josh,
where are those figures from?
Where do you get these statistics from? It's a picture.
The pennies started to drop, and I was just like,
oh god,
I'm part of the problem, and I really felt that way, and I was ashamed, and I was embarrassed, and honestly, because of that, I'm even more skeptical now than I've ever been, and because I don't want to embarrass myself again in front of Casey, because I felt so small and stupid, and
silly,
like I'd simply been manipulated by the powers at be, and I didn't like that.
The powers that be.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in to our C1 listening and conversation course. We've had a great conversation about fake news. I don't think we have spread any fake news, nor have we gotten anywhere.
Have we? Be skeptical.
Be skeptical. Do not share this. No, really, please share. Like us, please subscribe, please share this video with people on Facebook and on Twitter.
And if you have ever fallen for some fake news, if you ever think you've been manipulated by fake news, then tell us below, please.
Please,
we would love to hear your stories.
Even if you haven't been manipulated, tell us below. Show us how powerful you are.
Yeah, please. And we will correct your English in anything that you tell us if we like it.
Bye.